The expenses are divided into the most common categories: home, family, vehicles, necessities, entertainment, and other. Bob and Ann decide to start at the top and enter their home expenses first. So they click the Edit button next to the Home category. When they open the Home category, they notice something different. The Home category has subcategories. Subcategories allow the grouping of common expenses to be entered and tracked separately. For example, if Bob and Ann own two homes, they could track the expenses for each home separately. However, Bob and Ann only own one home, so they enter the address of their home in the Home 1 category. 123 My Street. After entering their home address, they click Save to save their changes. Once the changes are saved, they click the Edit button next to their home address to begin entering their home expenses. When the Home 1 category opens, which is now titled 123 My Street, the title bar shows them exactly where they are in the application: Expenses Form, Home Category, and 123 My Street. They scroll down and see that the most common home expenses are listed. The expenses listed are only suggestions and can be changed to meet your individual needs. Bob and Ann start at the top, the mortgage payment. Bob and Ann's monthly mortgage is $1,800, so they enter that amount in the 1 month field next to mortgage and click Calculate. Then they enter their other home expenses. Their association fee is $100 a month. Their insurance is included in the monthly mortgage payment, so they skip that category, and if they wanted, they could rename that category and use it for another expense. Their electric bill on average is $175 a month. Their home is all electric, they do not use gas, so they skip that category. Their water bill is $200 and paid quarterly every 3 months. So they multiply that by 2 to get the 6-month average and enter $400 in the 6-month field. Their TV, internet, and phone are all bundled together, so they only have one payment. So they combine those three into one category. And enter their payment in the 1 month field. Now, they could use these categories for something else. They review the form, verify the amounts are correct, and then click Save to save their changes. Once their changes are saved, they click Exit to return to the Home category. Back on the home page, Bob and Ann see that their home expenses were carried over and are placed in the fields next to 123 My Street. If Bob and Ann owned another home, they could also enter those expenses, and all their home expenses would be totaled together and placed in the total fields at the bottom. Bob and Ann do not have any other home expenses to enter, so they click Exit to return to the balance sheet. When Bob and Ann return to the balance sheet, they see their total home expenses were carried over and are placed in the fields next to the home category. They also see that their home expenses are included in the total expenses fields at the bottom of the expenses section. And in the balance section at the bottom, their total expenses have been subtracted from their total net income, and the balance now reflects the expenses they have entered. Bob and Ann are beginning to see how BillBalance works and are ready to enter the next category of expenses, family. So they click the Edit button next to the family category. When Bob and Ann enter the family category, they notice it is similar to the home category, but there are many more subcategories. However, the subcategories for family work the exact same way as the subcategories for home. They allow the grouping of similar expenses to be entered and tracked separately. The family category allows the tracking of individual expenses, so Bob and Ann create two new categories for themselves. After entering their names, they click Save to save their changes. Once the changes are saved, Bob then clicks the Edit button next to his name to begin entering his expenses. Bob has three personal expenses to enter: meals, medication, and dry cleaning. He begins by entering his meals. On average, Bob spends $12 a day on lunch and coffee at work. Bob could enter $12 in the one-day field, but that would calculate to 30 days a month, and on average, Bob only works 22 days a month. To get the most accurate results, Bob calculates $12 a day times 22 working days a month. On average, Bob spends $264 a month on lunch and coffee at work. So he enters 264 in the 1 month field. Next, Bob enters his medication. On average, Bob spends $75 a month on medication, so he enters 75 in the 1 month field. Lastly, dry cleaning. Bob spends an average of $25 a week on dry cleaning, so he enters 25 in the 1 week field. Bob reviews his expenses, confirms everything looks good, and clicks Save to save his changes. Once his changes are saved, he clicks Exit to return to the family category. On the family category page, Bob sees that his expenses were carried over and placed in the fields next to his name. Next, Ann clicks the Edit button next to her name to begin entering her expenses. Ann also has 3 expenses to enter: drinks, dry cleaning, and beautician. Drinks. Ann likes to take her lunch to work, so her daily expense is only $5 on coffee and drinks. So like Bob, she calculates her average daily spend times her number of working days per month, 22. On average, Ann spends $110 a month on drinks. Dry cleaning. On average, Ann spends $45 a week on dry cleaning. Beautician. On average, Ann spends $55 a month getting her hair done. Bob no longer has those expenses. Ann reviews her expenses, confirms they are correct, and then clicks Save to save her changes. After the changes are saved, Ann clicks Exit to return to the family category. On the family category page, Ann sees her expenses were carried over and are in the fields next to her name. She also sees that her and Bob's combined expenses were added together and totaled at the bottom of the form. Finished with their family expenses, they click Exit to return to the balance sheet. On the balance sheet page, Bob and Ann see that their total family expenses were carried over and placed in the fields next to the family category. Also, their family expenses have been added with the home expenses and totaled at the bottom of the expenses section. And in the balance section at the bottom of the form, their total expenses have been subtracted from their total net income and the balance calculated. Bob and Ann now understand exactly how BillBalance works, and all they need to do is continue entering their remaining expenses to have a complete understanding of their finances. Bob and Ann also realize they can use BillBalance to plan ahead for future expenses. For example, they're having a baby, so they can start entering their estimated expenses today so they can begin planning for tomorrow's expenses. Well, that concludes the video on how to use BillBalance.com. We also recommend viewing the other help videos that contain very useful tips and tricks. Thank you for watching.